Hello everyone, this is Modestas and welcome to our video. In this video I'm gonna present you our June and May release changes. So just let's start with our date changes. We have improved user input parsing by parsing date, so it means that now we support ISO date standards. So if we write some date, it should be parsed like it is, and also we support double parsing, so it's ISO date or it could be the date as you see here. It's short date string. Each user might have different short date format, and in my case it's like this. So I can type in like this and it should set the date what I typed in. Uh, Another thing is filtering. In filtering, if I want to filter something out, I can use isodate, like this, for instance. Of course, it converts the date in short date string, and also I can use the same short date string to support filtering. Yeah, like this. Another thing you can see in this app, in this second grid, we're using different date format. So here we can use formatted string. So uh, we can use ISO short date, or we can use data format which is specified in this cell. So if I do 15 July 2021, right, it will change me and parse user input correctly. Another thing to mention, sometimes it might be tricky if I would like to filter for this date. Sorry, enter. Yes, it applied my string, but we need to know that it also supports data format. So for field filter, I can show you here. We can specify data format, which is here. Basically it should allow me to write 15 June 2021, right, enter, and it adds it as this date. So that's it for user input formatting. And another change is filtering and taking user time zone in account. Let me switch to new app, and here we are in DB Manager, and we have we can see a filter string which is filtering for a specific date. So we are interested in all records basically from this specific dates. Everything seems to be all right, because it filters all records from the same date. But the problem comes here because of this date. This date is user date, so it's user localized date, user time zone date. So if we go to this app, if we see same filter here, we see that we specify specific date, and we are interested only in those specific date records. So to make things more interesting, I will go in my another query. We'll run this, and we can see that when we are filtering, we expect that all dates on the database is UTC based. So as you can see here, this filter works good on these fields. It basically gets correct fields, but the problem comes when we localize dates. So idea is these dates are shown to the user. He's filtering for one day, but he's getting all other dates than he expected. And in this case, we have set our time zone to 6 plus 6 hours. So to make things right, I will just remove this one and get this one in place. So we have expression which makes date localized, and also we use the same expression in our filtering. So when I execute this, now I get correct results. So from now on, for all datetime fields, we will add this time zone into account to make this useful working for all users. There are some exceptions, like if in our filter we will use get UTC date, from web it might look UTC now, all right, because we also support that, but in the backend it's replaced. Or we use get date, which is server side date, I mean date from server time zone, and alternative for that one is now. So if you use those ones, we did not want to introduce a breaking change, because if we're using those ones and we are adding these conversions, we might break things. So we left those as it is, but all other cases, and if it's a datetime field, it will add this expression to convert this datetime field to user time zone, because as I said, this date comes from the user. He picks that date, so all other dates should be converted as well. And thanks for watching for dates. Let's move on to our next highlights. Our another change also related to dates is uh, for date pickers, instead of setting year range statically, we calculate, so we take last 20 years and 10 next years. Also, moreover, maybe not everyone knew, but if you go to documentation site, just type in date picker and I pick up date time picker control, you can see some data attributes you can use to set those dates by your application requirements. You can use this or this data attributes. Also, you can see that we have some additional callbacks, like data callback, so it will fire when it's picked. And this onShow method is interesting, that it also exposes this picker instance. It means that on some function you can get object, and from that object you can access date picker instance and access all its methods. For full list of methods, you can check pick-a-day.js date pick and control. We're using third-party library to get this date picker, so you can check that documentation and get all other methods available and use them if you need if you need some customizations or other things. Appframe lightbox improvements. We have some, of course, documentation article where we write how to use this lightbox, and I also have some test images article on my DevTest Appframe site. And from here you can see that I have lightbox available on R4 system. The same lightbox you must have seen already on workflows and other Omega 365 controls, but we ported this in R4 as well, and all applications which used lightbox will automatically switch to this one. And yeah, usage is documented in this article, so just check it out. New data action has been introduced, so it's called console confirm, and it means that For instance, this button means that it's data action cancel, so it cancels your changes, and you can replace this with data cancel confirm. So instead of just canceling, you will be prompted for the message saying that, are you sure you want to do that? Yes, I'm sure. Our next item in the list, ascending null first and ascending null last. As you may spotted before in database in data source designer, you had sorting options, and some of sorting options was ascending null last and ascending null first. So they were not working before. Now we introduced, and you can just start using them as they should have been working all the time. Next, highlighted system roles app. If we go to our developer menu, we can see new item roles, and this app is meant to replace Win app. So just to limit need of Windows client at all. Basically, you should have all major features here available as well. Last item from May release is time picker. There were no major changes, it's just some additional button added. For instance, if we check if we have not null column, we can have this clear button here available. There were no button before. So that's it from our May release. For full list, you can always check workflow register, and we can continue with our June release. We already talked about change fix for datetime fields in the web, and our second in the list is updater changes. And finally, I hope these customizations might help other solutions which has some their own implementations to deal with standard updates. So we have extended documentation article for updater. You can always read docs there, and now I'm just quickly walk you through this. So we have additional button here. It says customizations, and we can find out that there are some objects already. These are most likely already like testing ones, but an idea is like this. We add any object here. When we add object here we can define SQL before. We can choose also from a template. So for instance, here I have IF error or IF default template. IF default template cannot be deleted, neither renamed. It's will be used by the system, but if you set some object as customized, this will be set as default, and this means that whenever you download update and updater finds that item in this customization list, it will pick this value, and this will be default one. If you want you know, to have different approach, you may take some more creative ways to add some checks or whatever. You can change this default template, you know, to apply for all new objects instantly. Another way is to deal with customizations would be to use IF error template. This template you can just pick it from this list, and when you add, you just need to assign, or you can just replace your default one with this one. So it means if your object is marked as customized, it means that it will throw you an error. It will show you this message and will set status to 2. Those ones who are familiar already with applying updates logic, so it should not be a problem for you to understand this. Another thing from customizations, so if I have some object, for instance, I have Win client login, and if I check it somewhere here, include deployed, I may use in filtering. So basically I can get all my customized objects. Well, just I don't have that one neither deployed, neither applied most likely. but idea is that you can use this filtering to get all your customizations when you download update. That's it for customizations. Another new feature, all changes will be logged, a new tab added. So if I will choose some update, um, let's take first one, we have new tab log, and it says what actions have been done to this one. So if I change some, I will just add several spaces to description, I will save it, and I can see that I made some changes. We have this compare button. We can always use this compare button as well, but in main cases is used if I, for instance, update some SQL before, or main SQL, where we have some bigger scripts, to compare. It's not only one type, one line sentence, but it could be also this change. Let me add something, yeah, like this. It's saving, and if I go to log, I can see that I changed my SQL column, and I can compare and find out what has been changed. It should be very useful if you don't know who did what changes. And some changes regarding drop statements. I have updater, I have just dropped my test procedure, and if I check SQL check, I can find such expression which checks if that object is null, and if that object does not exist in target database, this will not be applied. It will be set as applied, and it will not throw error that such object do not exist. We did some changes for send mail service. So first of all, there's retry possibility. So if send mail fails to send email, he will try to retry 3 times. Next thing is we moved all database objects from a namespace to system namespace, and this means that all object names has changed, and with this update you should also take CSAF send mail service from assembly, because now it comes with updater, and you should just use that version. You can't just take latest version from PMSDev and use it. Some performance improved in the Dell trigger. There were some heavy maintenance procedure launched and running. When you were creating dropping objects, and it caused quite a heavy payload. So we we improved it, and we're looking what to improve next in our Dell trigger. Data grid sorting will be saved with layout, so it means if I have some grid, right, and I have some layouts, I can press on them, and with a layout, sorting also comes up. So whenever you save a layout, you can sorting will be saved alongside with it. Read-only archive domain checks in the triggers. So I will just go to my test table, and if you can see, we have a new checkbox here. So by default it will always be like this, read-only when domain is archived. It means that this check, when trigger is generated, this check will this bit will force to generate domain based table triggers to have checks in the trigger for read-only domains. So an idea, if we have some archive domains, and we don't want anyone to update, insert or delete data there, so that's where triggers came in place. By default, all your existing triggers will look similar to this one. This will not have any check, but because we have this checkbox checked, whenever we press regenerate triggers, let me wait a bit. Yeah, triggers regenerated. If I do refresh, reload frame, right, so then I can see under Appframe auto-generated Appframe security check, I have such statement which checks if domain is archived or not, and if it's archived and I'm updating archived stuff, it's not allowing me to do any other stuff for that domain. And yeah, you just need to regenerate your triggers and views, and if you don't want that option, just untick this checkbox and save it. So I hope you enjoyed this video and see you on next releases.